So the Saturday session in China has ended. Obviously, we saw George Russell dominate. Did he dominate? Well, he dominated most of the sprint race, didn't he? But in the end, Charles Leclerc just couldn't catch up to him in the end on the final lap as George Russell wins sprint race. It was nip and tuck between Russell and Leclerc once then, as we saw in Australia. And but also we saw a bit of a nip and tuck between the two Ferrari teammates, Leclerc and Hamilton, which Charles Leclerc was not happy about, was not pleased about. And not being funny, Lewis Hamilton is a 7-time world champion for a reason, isn't he? So Lewis Hamilton is not going to settle for second fiddle. But I did say with that Ferrari partnership, it was going to end in tears, wasn't it? It was going to end in tears. And this is why you do not have two drivers who want to be number one, because that's what happens, and a clash is going to happen between the two of them. And when a clash happens between the two of them, that's going to be the end of that relationship, isn't it? And that partnership. And but yeah, the Ferraris were comfortable in second and third. Lando Norris was in fourth. Decent sprint race for him. Terry Antonelli did get a 10-second penalty, so Terry Antonelli would have finished second, but obviously he got a 10-second penalty for causing tears with Isaac Hadja. And but then still, in the end, it was still a fucking good. In the end, still a good race for Terry Antonelli as well. Even when things scored against him, he showed that resilience, hasn't he, to come back. Also Piastri finished in 6th, and then we saw Liam Lawson and Ollie Burman at the final points ahead of Max Verstappen. Who would have thought that? Who would have thought that this season? Max Verstappen not stolen a point in the sprint, and but then dud sprint from Liam Lawson and a dud sprint from Ollie Burman. Max Verstappen missing out on the point in the sprint race. Just not done well for Verstappen, is it, at the start of the season? But obviously, Red Bull, I still think Red Bull are still the best team on the grid. I think they will still turn it around, Red Bull, and see what the problems are. Them and Mercedes are still the best teams on the grid in terms of sorting the issues. And obviously, Verstappen, Ocon, Dadsy, Sainz, and obviously Bottas didn't get in the points along with the other drivers. And obviously we cement the driver standings just like this. George Russell has an 11-point lead over Anthony going into the race tomorrow. Leclerc is in 3rd, Hamilton 4th, Norris 5th, Verstappen 6th, Burman 7th, Limpiad, Piastri, Bortietto and Lawson getting the points as well. Mercedes have a 15-point lead over Ferrari. Both of them are well ahead of McLaren in 3rd, and Red Bull currently in 4th, battling with the other teams at the moment. Red Bull, which is then something you did not expect. But obviously, now we move on to qualifying. Where we saw Kimi Antonelli putting a sensational performance in qualifying pole. Albeit he had a bit of luck with his teammate George Russell having some issues in qualifying 3, which meant George Russell only had to do 1 lap in qualifying 3, but not Antonelli's fault, is it? And I did that right in my preview. I did say Kimi Antonelli would suit the amount of short corners around here in China, in my opinion. And hopefully, obviously I have nothing against George Russell, I actually like George Russell, but hopefully Kimi Antonelli can win the race tomorrow, and then it's 1-1, isn't it? It's 1-1 between Russell and Antonelli, and a potential Mercedes 2014 2.0 title race like it was with Hamilton and Rosberg. Obviously the two Ferraris in 3rd and 4th, expected, wasn't it? That was expected in terms of the qualifying pace. The McLarens are starting to slowly improve, aren't they? Slowly improve, the two McLarens in 5th and 6th. Per Dadsy out-qualifying Max Verstappen. Then who would have thought that? Per Dadsy in Alpine, a very good qualifying session from him. Verstappen 8th, Hadja 9th. Oyburn in 10th. That was qualifying 3. Hulkenberg, the usual suspects out in qualifying 2. Hulkenberg, Pinto, Ocon, Lawson, Yimpiad and Bortietto. And the usual suspects are out in qualifying 1 in Sainz, Albon, Alonso, Bottas, Stroll and Perez. So yeah, business as usual, wasn't it, in qualifying? Nothing really was a surprise apart from Max Verstappen then out-qualified by Perdazzi. If Verstappen would have qualified 7th, that would have been a respectable position for Verstappen with Red Bull's start to the season. And and now we move on to the race tomorrow. We know what's going to happen in the race tomorrow. Ferrari once again will be like a water ship off the line. I think it's going to be nip and tuck between the 2 Mercedes and the 2 Ferraris. So, got an interesting race tomorrow potentially. But then we all know what's going to happen in the end. Obviously, in the end, Mercedes will still dominate the Grand Prix in the end. But early on in the race, it will be nip and tuck between the Mercedes and the Ferrari until they have to pit, until they all have to pit, and that's when Ferrari's downfall will continue for me. Ferrari's downfall with strategy will continue. So, but obviously I'll do a race prediction ahead of tomorrow after this video. So that is, but this is my sprint qualifying this is my sprint race review and my actual qualifying review. Feel free to leave your thoughts on everything I've spoken about down below in the comments, and I'll see you all for the race prediction for tomorrow.